Hello, Chernobyl explorers! We return with the sequel to Chernobylite, a game created 5 years ago with your invaluable help. Chernobylite 2 is a post-apocalyptic RPG in which the main characters try to escape the sinister exclusion zone and return home, breaking the barriers of time and space and fighting the emanations of the insidious Chernobylite. What you will see in the new game may initially seem surprising, but I assure you that we care about developing the best elements of the first part. It has always been our dream that Chernobylite would be a full-blooded RPG played in the open world of the Chernobyl zone, but in the first part we couldn't afford to create such a big world and fill it with as many adventures as we could experience there.
When Chernobylite, thanks to the previous campaign on the Kickstarter, was released in early access in 2019, we gathered thousands of comments from you, from players all over the world. Over the following years, we developed the project together, with you, adding new locations, characters, adventures, quests and gameplay modes. We knew almost from the beginning on our own and based on your feedback that the story told in the game and explored through daily visits to the zone deserve more extensive world scale, more freedom to explore it and more tools to explore it.
When we repeatedly traversed the Chernobyl zone while scanning objects for the game, we had many fantasies about bringing its virtual world to life and intensifying the thrill of exploring it each time. How can you feel firsthand the threat of radiation or other dangers lurking around? Also, you should believe that you can make your own choices and rise to the challenges appropriately, that you can tell your own story. And because we are talking about an RPG, telling that story involves forming relationships with other people, navigating the meandering relationships between fractions, constantly developing your team and taking care of your territory.
But our adventure with Chernobyl began much earlier than 10 years ago. In 2014 we went there for the first time to collect material for our experimental Chernobyl VR project, which became a virtual tour of parts of the zone. It was not a game, but a documentary telling the story of the disaster survivors. We used VR technology and photogrammetry to let the audience experience the story as if they were at the center of its events.
In Chernobylite, we developed the narrative tools and methods created for our previous projects, Get Even and Chernobyl VR project. Still, it wasn't until the end of this project that we accumulated the know-how and technologies to build a large open world, increase the number of story characters, dialogue options and various combat mechanics, and write an even crazier storyline.
However, it was never just about increasing the scale of the new project. What captivated you most about the first Chernobyl was the sad and ominous atmosphere of the zone. Its overwhelming beauty built on echoes of a problematic past. Every ruined building, every abandoned vehicles, every moan of the wind of the cracking rusted structures remind you of the stories of those who experience of one of the greatest man-made disasters. There is no other place in the world like Chernobyl, which is the essence of both the first and second part of Chernobylite.
Our game has 3 main characters. The first hero is our protagonist, Cole Gray, a former mercenary, a man with a dark past who becomes trapped in Zona due to an interdimensional catastrophe. The second is Chernobylite, an interdimensional entity taking the form of a green crystalline substance, which is both the largest source of radiation in the universe and the power-conscious, sinister force that seeks to control every planet that exists in it. The third protagonist of the story is the Exclusion zone itself, a place where any mistake can cost you your life, but also where you will find everything you need on the road to liberation.
The first part of Chernobylite showed the world from a first-person perspective, which was an obvious choice for us for a straightforward reason. We wanted to provide as much immersion as possible and let you experience the brutal beauty of the zone with maximum detail. In the second part of the game, the exploration of the zone continued from a first-person perspective, but the combat was designed for a third-person perspective. We wanted to provide more gameplay options, more freedom to create your own unique character and story. So, we introduced an extensive character development system and many options for fighting the enemies. Since we no longer use not only firearms in combat, but also light weapons and various types of Chernobylite energy devices, we looked for multiple solutions to provide the players with the best experience in this regard. After months of experimentation, we became convinced that the ability to view the protagonist from a third-person perspective and conduct combat in this mode was the optimal solution. Still, after seeing the first trailers of the game, many of you felt that playing with a first-person perspective was more natural, and depriving the game of this option would take a toll on the enjoyment of the game. Since our project is already heading towards the end, introducing such a significant change as an alternative first-person combat system would be unfeasible in the previously planned time frame. We decided to turn to you for support.
We are here because we want to allow you to play the game in the most enjoyable way for you and allow you to change the player perspective at any time. Adding the first-person combat in the Chernobylite 2 requires significant changes to the existing animation system, the game interface, difficulty, balance, and virtual camera work. In addition, it's necessary to add unique animations to each of dozens of weapons and their attachments. This means not only the work for us, but also the need to test new solutions on much larger scale. Why? Because the changing of the perspective of the player forces the multiplications of tests and much broader analysis of the results before implementing any changes.
Before we launched on Kickstarter, we developed prototypes of first-person combat and ensured we could make such massive changes at this project stage. We estimate the amount of additional work and solidified that the challenge was worth it. However, without your help, we cannot implement and test all the changes on our own. We are an independent team of less than 50 people, which requires reaching out for external support for a project of this scale. By being here on Kickstarter, we have chosen the best place to ask for that support. Thanks to this campaign, we will be able to provide you with a game that is much richer, better tested, and takes into account your comments on its direction. We want to analyze your feedback very carefully to all the changes we will make and work together to refine the shape of the whole.